this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion.
God's not dead.
Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to see a revolution somehow. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside.
We are your church. We pray, revive this earth.
Build your kingdom here.
Good morning. Welcome to the King's Report. Friday, November 17th, 2017, 8th year of Chungi, 9th month, 29th day. by the heavenly calendar. I'm your host, Hyung Sean Moon, second king of Cheongguk. Let's go first to Tim, the agent elder, for our accurate weather forecast. Tim.
Good morning. It's 32 degrees and mostly clear in the Cheongguk area. And we're going up to 44 degrees here today. It's windy right now, and it's going to continue. The wind is going to continue through today and into tonight. Tonight will be partly cloudy, going down to 22 degrees. Tomorrow is a Children's Day, and there's going to be some rain tomorrow, but it'll probably hold off until the afternoon. And so we won't be having any effect on the Children's Day events during the morning. Sunday, on the Ancestor Liberation Day, we're going up to 49 degrees. And so it shouldn't be too cold for us to do the burning of the papers outside following the Ancestor Liberation Ceremony inside. So that's the weather. There's an article that we're expecting an extended period of severe winter weather. This is actually in a Buffalo newspaper, and so, well, that's for Buffalo. Buffalo is pretty severe every year, but there's a prediction or a forecast that the polar vortex is going to come down, and they published a map, and on that map, it looks like we'll be about they say 0.6 to 0.8 degrees below average. That's pretty accurate.
0.6 to 8 degrees below average. Okay.
Yes. So it'll be a little bit colder than the normal winter.
So we're going to get a polar vortex.
Yes.
Wow. That sounds very dramatic.
Yes.
Okay, Tim, thank you for that update on the news. Now, let's go to our Rima today, and we are in Ezekiel 23 and 17. This is talking about the younger sister, Jerusalem. We are in 17. This is talking about Oholibah, the younger sister, Oholibah, I believe. Oholah and Oholibah. Oholah was the harlot, the elder, and Oholibah was her sister, her younger sister. They were two harlots. Now, although her sister Oholibah saw this, she became more corrupt in her lust than she, and in her harlotry more corrupt than her sister's harlotry. So the younger sister was the more corrupt one. She lusted for the neighboring Assyrians, captains and rulers, clothed more gorgeously, horsemen riding on horses, all of them desirable young men. Then I saw that she was defiled, but took the same way, but she increased her harlotry. She looked at men portrayed on the wall, images of Chaldeans portrayed on the wall in vermilion, girded with belts around their waist, flowing turbans on their head, all of them looking like captains, the manner of Babylonians and Chaldea. Here we are, 17. Then the Babylonians came to her into the bed of love, and they defiled her with their immorality. She so was defiled by them and alienated herself from them. She revealed her harlotry and uncovered her nakedness. Then I alienated myself from her as I alienated myself from her sister. That is God alienated herself. Yes, she multiplied her harlotry in calling to remembrance the days of her youth, when she had played the harlot in the land of Egypt. For she lusted for her paramours, whose flesh is like the flesh of donkeys, and whose issue is like the issue of horses. Thus you call to remembrance the lewdness of your youth, when the Egyptian pressed your bosom because of your youthful breasts. And there you go. We've had this scripture before. We've had this Rima before. But it's always an interesting scripture. God here is likening, or Ezekiel here, God through Ezekiel is likening Jerusalem to this harlot, Oholibah. Okay? Because he sees the next generations are getting decrepit. And they're taking on what is the power plays of the age, of the day. Okay, whatever society was become more powerful, like the Assyrians or the Chaldeans. They didn't have MTV back then. They didn't have TV. They didn't have internet. So what was happening? The Babylonians, the Chaldeans, were the Hollywoods. They were the more wealthy cultures. Of course, they accumulated that wealth by killing people and murdering people and genociding and raping girls. But nonetheless, these young, dumb inhabitants of Jerusalem could not see all that, could not see the hell that they wreaked upon others, could not see the centralized archangelic power they made upon their people, slaves, Babylonian sex cults, child sacrifice, killing babies, you name it. They're doing it all. But they couldn't see that. They would just see, oh, look at those horsemen painted on the walls in vermilion and belts of gold. Only the external side these young, dumb girls would see. Flowing turbans on their head, looking like captains. Power. And then when this evil came, came to conquer, steal, conquer, and destroy. Steal, kill, and destroy is what the Bible says about Satan. This harlot threw herself onto these men because she thought she would get ahead, because she thought she could advance herself. And you see this happen in Hollywood all the time. Unfortunately, these brain-dead, brainwashed girls and boys, but a lot of women, are going to Hollywood trying to find stardom and fame and fortune and the red carpets, which are actually soaked in children's blood, and the pedophiles raping young boys and girls' blood. But you see them going from all over the world to try to get to Hollywood, to try to get this stardom, you name it, okay, etc. And this is always an allure when children are in their teens or even before that, in their like 10 years old, 9 years old. They want to be something. They want to be special. They want to be recognized. They want people to cheer for them. They want accolades. They want to be worshipped, because they believe that that's where they will find value. So you can see these little child stars going out there like 5, 6, 7 years old, and their parents are actually sending them there before they're actually formed and before they're actually able to cognitively be able to do battle all the different psychological tricks and predators that are out there. And you can see all these droves of young girls who are, coming from Christian backgrounds, and they're going to Hollywood to find stardom, and they run away from home or whatever, you name it. And then, at a young age, they're already sleeping around. They're trying to get up the ladder. And at 18, they're legally, able to, do other things. So at 18, they're become even more, harlot-like. Maybe some of these girls can't make it in Hollywood in movies, so they jump into porn. And then 18, since they're legal to, as a quote, adult, now they're jumping into porn at 18 years old. Because maybe there they can find stardom, see? Because now the porn stars are another whole Hollywood thing now. Oh, yeah, see? And that's creating the whole industry of, sort of this side industry of Hollywood. But then it's actually creating more money than Hollywood, right? So they can still find that fame and fortune that they want. But of course, they have to do it while having sex with STD men day in and day out. And people, of course, say they don't know. And of course, we know just physically women are destroyed by that. Because when women have sex with a person, they release the hormone oxytocin, which actually bonds you to that person. So the more you have sex with people you don't know, all these hormones for bonding are being produced, but yet you're being thrown away like trash after the man ejaculates in you. Your emotions and hormones are trying to bond with that person, but then you have to shatter that, destroy it, break it. And so slowly, over time, your heart and your person is just being torn to shreds, let alone you putting yourself at tremendous risk and a harlotry, not only degrading your moral, ethical, spiritual value, but of course throwing away putting your physical life in danger by having sex with all those STD-ridden, genital warts, herpes, syphilis, HIV-carrying men. So we know that historically it's always been the case that because sexual youth is valued among men, then women who have that sexual youth and have sexual beauty will use that as an asset to then get greater access to resources, as Steph and Melanie always talk about. Get more access to resources. Fame and fortune will give you more access to resources. Having sex or becoming intimate with powerful Harvey Weinsteins or powerful people in Hollywood, even if it means that you have to sell yourself sexually, will get you access to resources. And instinctually, girls want access to resources. But if they're not aware they want, then they're going to be brain dead, going to Hollywood thinking that they want to be some kind of star, only to be exploited, only to be, and thinking that they can go there on talent, quote, talent. You may be the best actor. If they don't like you there, Harvey Weinstein doesn't like you there, you can't get a job there. And this is what people are starting to realize about places like Hollywood. It's a rigged system. It's like when you're bushcrafting and you're trapping an animal. You want to funnel that animal into a kill zone or into a trap. You funnel that animal in by setting up fences or debris on the side so the animal doesn't want to go there, because the animal will travel the path of least resistance. And he will start getting funneled into this corridor that you make for him or her, and you have a big trap that snaps down like a 220 Connemara snap his neck. It's a big metal trap. Or if you don't have that, it's you can make different type of spike traps or pinning traps or deadfall traps, whatever it is. Or you could have hunters waiting in ambush at the kill zone, okay? And that's basically what Hollywood is. It is a kill zone. Even in military tactics, you create a kill zone so that bad guys are forced to come down a specific route in which you are waiting to ambush them. That is called a kill zone. That's the same thing as trapping an animal, okay? And in the same manner, Hollywood is basically a kill zone. Isn't that an interesting way to see it? It's basically a place where young children are funneled and then funneled right to the predators. It's not because you got talent. It's not only because you got talent or because you got looks that you succeed in Hollywood. There's plenty of beautiful girls that go to Hollywood. They never make it. It's like 99.9999999% of people don't make it. But they want you to focus on that 0.00001% who actually had to sleep around and be raped and had their booties and breasts and sexual organs groped and sexed up by these sleazy, oily, despicable, what do they call them? Not trappers. handlers, groomers like Weinstein and these idiots. And you have to throw yourselves at them, and then they give you a job because they thought you were cute and had a little bit of talent. You see what I'm saying? And then you're put in this Hollywood cult where in which they put you in these circles where you're supposed to, where you're supposed to be doing all this, commiserating, and you have to go to the parties, and the drugs are there, and then, oh, now they got you hooked on drugs because they want you to be hooked on drugs because then they can control you more easily. And when you're hooked on drugs, they can give you fixes like pimps who control prostitutes by getting them addicted to heroin. So they get you in these parties, drunk and heroined out, etc. And just in case they want to get rid of you after they've used and exploited you, they always have a good excuse. They can always send a little more heroin your way and have you overdose and die. But look, the young kids, they see the powerful Babylonians and Chaldeans of that time too. Jerusalem. They're basically looking at Hollywood, which is Babylon, and which is doing all this wickedness and, sexual depravity. And they say, oh, look at all that power. I want to be part of that. And this is a lure of being attracted to power. Especially here, the Bible is warning the girls to be careful, not to be attracted by power, and understand if the Babylonians and Chaldeans were powerful, the Jewish girls should have been thinking, well, how did they become powerful? What is the meaning of power? Is it just wearing fancy clothes and flowing turbans and girded with belts around their waist and images of them portrayed in vermilion? Is that really what is valuable in this world? Is the star Hollywood glitz and glamour and the red carpets? Go ahead, pull up a picture of the Hollywood glitz and glamour red carpets. Ooh, all those pictures, all those people taking pictures. Is that really what's valuable? And this is what's so great about the internet now, and about the internet and free markets, is that people are able to not worship these idiots anymore. They can see how stupid these people are. They can see how much of a scumbag and lowlifes that they are, that they're little hoes and prostitutes, many of them. Not all, but most. And they're selling themselves these stupid things. But this is the great thing about the internet and these smaller, cameras and stuff like that. Now people can make their own YouTube channels, and people can make their own broadcasts, and people can say, hey, I don't have to live like that, but yet I can be even have a bigger impact, which is great. Because then it creates a diversity, and not everybody who wants to be famous has to go through these oily, sleazy, pedophile handlers. And other people, just out of the comfort of their own home, as long as they have something that people want to connect with, can become well known. And they don't have to go through the stupid tunnel. They don't have to go through the stupid funnel. They don't have to go through the stupid grooming and the prepping and all the, trapping. And because of the freedom and prosperity that's created by the archangel being kicked away, then more and more people can experience a greater level of living. And when they experience a greater level of living, they don't envy those stupid Hollywood, quote, stars. And they say, so what? I'm not interested. I'm happier with my family. You see what I'm saying? I have real relationships. I don't have to sex myself out. I don't have to sell myself out like a hoe and work under pimps who try to make me addicted to heroin. I don't have to defile myself, but yet I can contribute and make a small business. I can entrepreneur. I can love God, love my neighbor. That's the great wonder. That's the wonderful thing about the internet. That's why they're always trying to censor it, trying to destroy it. They're always trying to do, quote, studies where they find out why Mark Dice is so, Mark Dice is so popular amongst millennials or whatever it is, Seriously. And they're trying to do these studies because they think that by doing scientific studies, you're going to find out. No, it's called being honest. If you're honest, people will trust you more on average than if you are a deceitful, lying piece of trash. And people have an instinct. They have what's known as a common sense, spider sense, sixth sense, whatever you want to call it. They have an instinct to smell whether or not this person is truthful or this person is lying through their teeth. And of course, not all, but most, as Jesse Lee Peterson always says. Normal people who don't have their brains turned to mashed potatoes by CNN, by public school, by Marxist professors, by centralized archangelic powers, by MTV and the child predators in Hollywood, those normal kids who don't have their brains turned into mashed potato usually have some level of amygdala function. Especially if they have a father in the home. If they have a father in the home, they're going to have better amygdala function than if they did not have a father in the home. I'm talking a biological father. Okay? They're going to have better amygdala function. They're going to have better ability to determine what is dangerous and what is not. What is a threat to their family, what is not. What is a threat to them, what is not. Etc. What is a threat to their loved one, what is not, etc. But you see the oholiba. This is a syndrome. We should call it oholiba syndrome. Because young people, every generation, have the oholiba syndrome. If they're not politically awake, if they're not mentally handicapped by the public school system and the brainwashing system, if they're not controlled by mainstream media and Hollywood, there is this temptation, especially if you are sexy and if you are handsome or if you are pretty, to use that quote, for an advantage to gain worldly means. But in order to do that, you have to sell your soul and be fondled and groped on your boobs and breast and bum and your sexual organ by some sicko, oily, pockmark-faced, greasy mob boss. And that's basically what's happening with all these allegations that come out of Harvey Weinstein, right? He was like the tunnel through which you had to go. And he has to get his greasy, pus-filled hands on you, allegedly, for you to get through. He's got to be able to slurp his way all over you for you to get some type of work. You had to enjoy being fondled by a greasy, molester and what women are accusing of being a rapist that literally is sweating canola oil and Burger King French fry oil from his pores, greasing you up. And then you can get a job, but then maybe he'll give you a job where you're in a movie. It's all worth it, I'm on the screen. So what? This is what's good about Everybody having an opportunity to use their talents and to extend into the atmosphere with the internet. Because now people are not mesmerized by Hollywood and the big screen. It doesn't have a monopoly anymore. And, you know, some idiot like PewDiePie who plays video games can have 1 billion views, more than Hollywood ever could have. You see what I'm saying? And that's a good thing. Because people can show different lifestyles and say, you know, I can have very strong Christian values and I can still make an impact in this world and I can make a living and I can run this with my small business and I can do, you see what I'm saying? Without doing the slut walk, without going through the Weinstein grease machine, without going through Burger King, In-N-Out Burger, Smash Burger, grease, oil, French fry frying, pus-filled, acne, popping. What's that grub? Grub beetle larva, pus oozing, bursting. Pedophiles like the handlers in Hollywood. Go ahead, pull up that video of Bear Grylls popping that grub. But you have the Oholima syndrome. The Oholima syndrome. Oh, Lord. Okay, go ahead. Play that. Big screen on the big screen.
Okay, that's what I mean.
Oh, no, that's a small one. That's a small one
beetle
now.
larvae. You can just eat them raw.
That's the small little larva.
When they're cooked, they're a bush delicacy, and at this time of year, there's plenty of them here.
No wonder they fry them.
Now, I've had larvae, but I've had a small one that. That's kind of big. But those are African beetle larvae. Look at this one. Then he gets a. Okay, yeah, get the.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my Lord have mercy.
This one has been living in there a very, very long time.
That's literally the handlers at Hollywood. You have to let that nasty grub, you know, the size is bigger than you. There it goes. Ah! That's literally what you have to do. For those stupid Hollywood harlot stardom, temporary, you know, 15 minutes of fame, you have to let some nasty grub, pus-filled, ooze-filled, nasty rhino beetle larva grope you and fondle you and have sex with you and enter you and pleasure themselves on you. Oh, for what? For what? What? Why do you do this, Oholima? Why are you so stupid and brainwashed by your stupid Marxist professors and public school teachers, even though they may not be personally bad? They're made to brainwash you by the state. Otherwise, they're not going to be fired. They're going to be fired from their jobs. We have teachers who were part of the public school system, and even if they brought up anything that was against Common Core, for example, even just saying Islam and Christianity are different, they were flagged by a Muslim student and fired. We have somebody like that in our community. Because she said Islam and Christianity are different, contrary to the brainwashing, multiculturalism, relativism class that they were studying on, quote, world religions. And a Muslim student flagged her and she was fired. This is how ridiculous this is. You can't speak about facts. You can't speak about truth. You can't speak about reality. You only have to accept political correctness and brainwashing. And then you're liberal, and then you're, quote, free, and then you're part of this cult. And any real data and any real logical arguments are blasphemy to you in your mind. Because you're not allowed to use logic. The leftist lunatics and Antifa, look at how they're brainwashing these kids. They can't string together a full sentence. These kids can't make a logical argument, which is the reason why when they're at these stupid rallies, they're always just chanting, racist, racist, racist. Hello, that's not an argument. That's not an argument. Racist, racist, racist. What else do they chant? KKK. What is it? So anyway, KKK, no way. Racist Donald Trump, no, some stupid thing like that. It's all prepared by their stupid handlers, and they're just chanting these stupid lines because they have no argument. They cannot argue against conservatives because conservatives actually are supposed to use critical thinking. You see that? We are taught to use critical thinking to make decisions, you see? Not just be told by Hollywood or CNN what to believe. We use critical thinking. That's why Christian apologetics is so important. Because it allows you to search for God using rational and critical thought. Even though that may not be the ultimate way you reach God, it is climbing the mountain, as Kierkegaard said. And in the end, of course, you have to take the leap of faith, but you can climb the mountain trying to search for God with critical thought. And that's why apologetics is so powerful. Because it shows how science and how mathematics and logic and reasoning validate the existence of God, which now is the reason why the percentage of theists in the scientific community, among scientists that is, has gone up from 1% to now 25% of scientists in the United States. These are professional scientists, okay? Professional scientists. 25% now believe in God. 25, that's a humongous shift since the 90s. When 99% were atheists. Now, 25% believe in God. That's a humongous change. Why? Because the more we study science, the more intimate we get with the knowledge of constant conditions and universal fine-tuning and the massive electron, proton, you name it. You can see that none of this can happen by variation, by chance, by statistical. It's statistically improbable. It's statistically impossible for it to all these various constants and conditions to match and work together in a symphony, an orchestra of life-permitting universe. And of course, if you know anything about mathematics, that's not only a certain percentage or a certain probability per constant, but when you add the different constants and conditions that have to actually work together, it is an exponential curve of improbability that this universe comes into existence by chance. You see that? But of course, if you're a leftist lunatic, you're not taught to think any of that stuff, and you're just told to paint and to play music, and that's how you contribute to society. You're not taught you have to learn mathematics. You're not taught you have to learn things like, hey, you have to crunch your brain out. You're not taught you have to use reason and critical thinking. No. Just keep drawing, child. Or keep going in Shakespeare plays and be in Hollywood. This is ridiculous. Civilization is not created by the arts. Civilization is created by thinking, planning, strategy, entrepreneuring, starting small businesses, serving customers. That's how civilization is created. Now, on top of that, you could have art, but art is not the foundation building block of any economy. The foundational building blocks of economy are blue-collar worker stuff. Did you know that? Manufacturing, factories, construction. People don't know. The young kids are never taught this. So they're told, especially girls, are brainwashed to believe that the blue-collar worker who works a 9 to 5 in construction, or works a 9 to 5 in the military, or works a 9 to 5 erecting buildings by, steel workers or whatever. These people are low life, low IQ, low intellectual. These people are dumb. But Hollywood stars are brilliant. Oh, it's so brilliant. People who lie for a living. Do you understand? They're brilliant. Oh, what a performance. What a beautiful performance. Where Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise is lying about who he is. He's pretending. He's just a good pretender. That's all he is. And these young kids actually think this is what builds civilization. How stupid they are. And girls are trained and brainwashed to not respect or not think the blue-collar worker is sexy or that he adds value to society and that's marriage quality person. And they're parading around these Hollywood pedophiles who are raping young girls, fondling breasts and bums, and raping young children. And they're taught, and because they drive a fancy car, the girls are taught, that's the one you want to be with. Even though they'll use you, exploit you, and toss you to the curb. And get another dumb bum, bozo bimbo. Or they'll get you on drugs, drug you out, so they can rape you while you're drugged, and then throw you to the curb. Because now they raped you, they exploited you sexually, and now they screwed your life up by getting you addicted to drugs, which is now even all the more hilarious to them because they love seeing idiots being led to the fire to be burned up like moths, and they get off on it because they're predators. Do you understand? They actually enjoy seeing all these young, dumb, bum, bimbo kids coming to Hollywood and failing unless they go through their kiss the ring process through them. Because it makes them feel more powerful and as if they're in some kind of club and if they belong to something and if they actually have value when they know they're pathetic, exploiting predators who are exploiting a weakness in human psychology, just like Sean Parker admits he did with Mark Zuckerberg in creating Facebook. Don't you people get it? These people get off on exploiting other people. They enjoy it. They think you're so stupid and so dumb. Unfortunately, if you're watching CNN and you're brainwashed by leftist lunatics, you have become dumb. But they think you're so stupid that you cannot even see the groomers and what they're doing to you. And of course, this is why in Chanilguk, the Constitution cannot be amended because the young, dumb children fall into a Holiba syndrome or fall into the money riches syndrome. And by any means possible, will collude with liars and predators to get resources and power for the temporary, and they'll be willing to destroy the civilization so they can centralize power, believe in their Marxist professors who told them communism was great, even though it murdered 220 million innocent people, women, men, children. Murdered, do you understand? Murdered. And ignorant young people become weaponized to make a system that actually in the end kills them and their children and their progeny and makes them into slaves. But they're told, like the luring of that walrus in that Disney, what is that Disney movie? Is it Alice in Wonderland? He's luring the little shells. Come with me, little shells. What is the clams? Come with me, little clams. Yes, ha 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 ha. That's like a college professor. Come with me, little John. That's like Harvey Weinstein. Come with me, little John. And then they're going, the clams are going with him to the cauldron pot to be fricasseed and boiled. So they're eaten by the walrus and his friend, the little white guy that was saying, oh, yes, I'm the clam, yes. This is ridiculous. Of course, that is why the Chinese Constitution that is given to us by God will not pass away, because the young people will not be able to exploit the system and or grow the centralized power to be able to exploit it, use it to steal and do force upon other people who are working hard, like the blue-collar workers, to steal from them so they can be pretending that they're Hollywood, even though they have syphilis and STDs, and they've slutted themselves out to some stupid lie. And in China, you actually have to be serving to other people to do well. And you don't have a safety net from the federal government. And you have to actually treat people kindly and with respect so that you don't burn bridges. And you have a safety net through networks and by being a good, honest, hardworking person. That is a difference between Hollywood and the satanic kingdoms of the world and Chanilguk. Chanilguk will punish the predators, the psychopathic 10% class. Punish it, eradicate it, because they will be so quickly identified. And the 40% sociopathic class that would in other systems follow the predatory class to create a centralized system to then exploit the 50% of the normal people to prey on them as the predators that they are. The 40% sociopathic class will have no way to go other than to follow the 50% normal people who don't want to exploit people, who don't want to rape children, who don't want to kill babies, who don't want to follow Hollywood, who want to just work hard and want to contribute to somebody's life. That's the normal 50%. The 40% sociopathic class will be forced to follow them and become like them. And so you have 90% of the population, more or less, that will be more honest and moral. And the 10% psychopathic class will be punished as they commit crimes. They will have still juries. They will still have their day in court. But as they're found and convicted of the different predatory behavior they're doing, they will be eradicated with the full power of the law. And the kingdom of God, even though we're not perfect in it, even though it'll create prosperity and freedom, will also produce moral peoples. Because you cannot succeed by being an immoral, lie and cheat. And of course, the kingdom cannot be destroyed by stupid children who are brainwashed and purposely put under mind control and indoctrination by Marxist professors who actually want centralized power because they are power lusting and beta males, and they want to get off on power lust, and so they use the children to weaponize them with Marxism and communism so that they become the strong-arm tool to then get control of centralized power and grow centralized power, by which they can then use the act of force and coercion to then steal from the normal people. It's all a big rig game. And God's kingdom will tear it all down. Praise God, praise God, praise God this morning. We will see you right back after this short break.
Hi there, folks, and look at what I've got here today. My God, take a look at this. This is a BFR in 454 Casul with an octagonal barrel, magna porting, micarta grips. And look at that, it even has my initials on it, JM. Look at that thing of beauty, my God. Pop open the cartridge insertion door, and look at that cylinder spin. The finest revolvers in the world. That's a cannon. That's a cannon. Oh, man. Pretty accurate, though. That's our target. Oh boy! Massive repo.
And we are back. Welcome back to the King Report, Friday, November 17, 2017. Second King reporting live from the Cheonggyegung Palace with Tim, the Agent Elder. Let's go to Tim now for our headline news on DrudgeReport.com. Tim.
So the upper left, Trump blasts Al Frankenstein. Al Franken, the senator from Minnesota, was accused of sexual harassment by a woman, and so now Trump has published some tweets where he referred to him as Al Frankenstein. Senator Perv, Dems face assault allegations. There was a photograph of him on the way, I guess they were in a cargo plane on the way to the Middle East, and he was, while a woman was asleep, he was fondling her breasts, and then someone took a photograph of it, and the photograph was published, so he can't very well deny it. Dems face assault allegations, and all this is now coming back on Bill Clinton. Now, finally, the Democrats are beginning to say, "Hey, maybe Bill Clinton needs to do something about all those allegations that were against him."
All roads lead back to Clinton.
That seems to be where it's going. Yes,
at least in America.
Yes, cable news race Hannity back to #1. Reports Saudi king to step down next week. That's a report. Crown demands 70% of detainees' wealth for freedom. All those princes and business leaders and so forth who were former ministers and so forth who were detained, they're going to have to give up 70% of their wealth in exchange for their freedom. A scandal rocks Ohio State House, 3 resignations in a month for inappropriate behavior. So this whole sexual harassment thing is spreading. Sylvester Stallone accused of sexually assaulting a 16-year-old fan, but he denies it. Polar vortex to bring extended period of severe winter weather. I mentioned that during the weather report. Wed troubles, BuzzFeed IPO prospect remote after huge revenue miss. Mashable sells for $50 million, valued at $250 million last year. FEC moves to kill Obama internet rules. FEC pushes for regulation. F-15s involved in bizarre encounter with mystery aircraft vanished over Oregon? Whose aircraft would that be? Sex robot showroom offering test drive. And Brady is sharper than ever. Maybe he'll continue as quarterback. House passes tax reform, but 13 Republicans voted no. The showdown now in the Senate. Now that the House has passed it, the Senate will pass their version, and after that they'll go into conference committee and finally come up with a version that they can both pass and send to the president. 7 of 10 richest members of Congress are Democrats.
Gee, I wonder if they accumulated that while they were there doing inside trading, or whether or not they came in as billionaires.
No,
Give me a break.
yes, it's good to be a congressman. Yeah, Lions next in line of.
You know, being a politician used to be called public service instead of going there to exploit and steal from the taxpaying class. I mean, it's ridiculous. Go ahead, Dan, go ahead.
Lions are next in line after elephants as U.S. rolls back curbs on African hunting trophies. Just like humans, chimpanzees warn others of impending danger. And the Comcast, Verizon, Explore, Fox deals, AT&T, Time Warner may be set for an epic antitrust case. That's going to the courts. It'll be a long time before that gets settled. The death of Little Peep, Rap's problem with prescription pills. Chairman steps down as NPR grapples with harassment crisis. There too. NPR, of course, is a very democratic institution, National Public Radio.
Receive
very
government
liberal.
funding.
Yes, a very liberal place. New H.W. Bush accuser says groped during 1992 re-election campaign. And CAA talent agency sued by client for sexual harassment. Crisis PR experts weigh in on whether shamed men will work again. Docs say baby boy first marijuana overdose death. Baltimore residents afraid to leave their homes as violent crime wave continues. We're looking at maybe 300 murders this year for the second or third year in a row. This is worse than Detroit or Chicago, they're saying. Cops shot in head while investigating a murder. That was in Baltimore. Convicted murderer elected to school board. Travel hell. Cities could see record Thanksgiving traffic delays. And Franken flashback. I just don't like homosexuals. Whoa, he's a Democratic senator. I was glad when that homosexual got killed. I guess he said that at some point. Joked about drugging, raping Leslie Stahl. Oh, he's so sorry. I'll bet he is, yes. Second woman says Franken aggressive, harassing calls. Farrakhan, Louis Farrakhan. Trump should repent.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Pelosi suffers brain freeze while questioning fitness to be president. Russia names 9 U.S.-backed news outlets to be labeled foreign agents. Seal opens dialogue with listeners on new album concerned about anti-social social media. Expert warns Black Death plague spreading across cities. Well, that's about the news. That's about it for the news today.
Well, on Franken, let's go to Hannity and his breakdown from Fox News this morning. Let's go to Hannity. Let's see if we can get this. We got audio? Oh, okay, this is a Six Flags season 70%. Okay, but here's the Fox News report here.
In the case of Senator Al Franken, here
Hold on. Audio issue.
More difficult to pass, which is why the House didn't include the repeal in their version of the bill.
Yes. Hannity, who
And
is
we
good?
have irrefutable photographic evidence. Let me explain. Actress, model, radio host Leanne Tweeden, who's been on this program many times, came forward today with stunning allegations against Democratic Senator Al Franken that he is now admitting to and he is now apologizing for. Now, according to Tweeden, during a 2006 USO tour in Afghanistan, then citizen Al Franken had written a skit where he kissed Tweeden, and Franken demanded that they, quote, rehearse it backstage. After Tweeden refused, she described what allegedly happens next at a press conference earlier today. Watch this.
He just put his hand on the back of my head and he mashed his face against, I mean, it happened so fast, and he just mashed his lips against my face, and he stuck his tongue in my mouth so fast. And all I can remember is that his lips were really wet and it was slimy. In my mind, I called him fish lips the rest of the trip because that's just what it reminded me of. I don't know why. And he stuck his tongue down my mouth, and I remember I pushed him off with my hands. And I just remember I almost punched him, because every time I see him now, like, my hands clench into fists, and I'm sure that's probably why. And I said, if you ever do that to me again, I'm not going to be so nice about it the second time. I was violated. I just felt like, he betrayed my trust, and obviously that is not what I wanted.
And it gets worse from there. Look at this photo. While leaving from Afghanistan, Tweeden fell asleep, and Franken proceeded, as you can see there, to grope her. Now, Tweeden says that she didn't even know what happened until after she got home and looked at pictures of this trip. Now, Tweeden further detailed the incident at a news conference earlier today. Let's take a look.
There's a photo of Al doing his, this on my breast, like looking at the camera, just kind of smirking and smiling, like, hey, look at me. He just thought he could get away with it, and that it was okay, and that it was funny. Nothing like that is ever funny. I mean, is it funny if he does that to your sister or your daughter or your wife? In context of already assaulting me backstage and all the little petty things he was doing to belittle me and how he treated me, and sort of, in succession, and then it ended with that. Look, I was afraid to speak out 11 years ago. I wanted to say something, and there were people around me who said, oh my God, you will get annihilated and you will never work in this town again. And I was afraid of that.
And this afternoon, Leanne Tweeden did an interview, and it got very emotional. Take a look.
It's not a feel-good thing. I still feel sort of embarrassed about it. You always... I don't want to be cliche, but, you talk about trying to leave the world a better place for your kids, Sorry.
Nothing to be sorry about.
I didn't think I was going to do that, but, you do. You want to leave, you try to set examples for your children, right? You want to leave the world a better place.
Now, I also interviewed Leanne Tweeden on my radio show earlier today. Listen in.
What do you think should happen? I know they were trying to pressure you in the press conference. Does something like that warrant? Does he belong in the Senate?
I'm not calling for him to step down. That's not why I came out with this. I just want other people. If there might be other girls that he did this to, and obviously you have one on the phone right now that's talking with me, and there might be others.
Al Franken did issue a statement apologizing for the photo, but claims to not remember the backstage kissing incident. It reads in part, quote, I don't know what was in my head when I took that picture, and it doesn't matter. There's no excuse. I look at it now. I feel disgusted with myself. It isn't funny. It's completely inappropriate. Now, Franken is also agreeing to a Senate ethics investigation, which Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell first called for, and then Democrats like Chuck Schumer, Claire McCaskill quickly supported because they had no choice. An ethics investigation, in my mind, takes too long. And by the way, is it a delay tactic? It's also funny how some Republicans are giving Franken, well, are they giving him a pass by only calling for an investigation? Leanne Tweeden is also weighing in and saying it should go even further than that by having an outside investigation into the senator's inexcusable actions. Now, what Franken has admitted to, which we have photographic evidence right there, and what he is accused of doing is pretty downright creepy. But sadly, it's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Al Franken, things you probably won't hear on any other show. For example, on the Senate floor in 2010, Senator Franken described his USO trips and called Leanne Tweeden beautiful. Watch this.
I was kind of a co-host with a a beautiful woman named Leanne Tweeden. And we do comedy routines, and we'd introduce music, and introduce the cheerleaders.
Now, Franken is also being accused of harassing a second woman, Melanie Morgan, a radio TV personality, also the co-founder of the website Media Equalizer. Morgan is alleging that back in 2000, while appearing with Franken on Bill Maher's show on ABC, Politically Incorrect, the two had a heated debate on camera, which then continued backstage. According to Melanie Morgan, Franken then got her phone number from one of the show's producers and called her 3 separate times, she said, harassing her until Morgan threatened to call the police. Now, I interviewed Melanie Morgan about these accusations of harassment on my radio show earlier today. Let's listen in.
Melanie, what do people to think when we don't have a picture, like in the case of Leanne? How do people sort through and get to the truth?
That is a great question, and it's one, as a journalist of over 30 years experience, I wrestle with every single day. You know, you have to take these instances and these testimonials by different women, and it's usually women, although in Hollywood, as we've learned, sometimes it's men, and you have to look at the whole context in which these allegations are made. You know, I wanted to give Judge Roy Moore the benefit of the doubt because it was 40 years ago that he was accused of doing some inappropriate things. I think that the people of Alabama are definitely going to make a judgment on what they think is true and what is not true. I can only speak as to the truth that I experienced, which was a very aggressive and almost obsessive behavior that Senator Al Franken displayed towards me when he was a writer and a performer on Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher.
Now, like in the case of Senate candidate Roy Moore, these are all very serious allegations that need to be fully investigated, in this case by the Senate Ethics Committee. And to be fair, we did reach out to Senator Franken. We did invite him on the show to tell his side of the story. You just heard part of my radio interviews with Leanne Tweeden and Melanie Morgan. Now, we also invited those that had accused Roy Moore on this program. We've also reached out to Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi. So far, they didn't get back to us. No comment. Now, when it comes to Senator Al Franken, here's what you probably haven't heard. He has a long history of making all kinds of vicious, vile, completely out-of-line comments. He's also a massive hypocrite when it comes to sexual harassment. For example, in 1995, he was working on Saturday Night Live on a, quote, skit where he suggested drugging and raping Leslie Stahl from 60 Minutes. He said at the time, quote, I give the pills to Leslie Stahl, then when Leslie's passed out, I take her to the closet and rape her. And that's why you never see Leslie until February, or when she passes out, I put her in various positions and take pictures of her. What kind of person is making jokes about drugging and raping women? Then in 2000, Al Franken wrote a, quote, so-called satirical article for Playboy magazine with the headline, Pornorama. Most of it is too vulgar to read on TV, but in part, one part in particular, Franken wrote, I'm talking about the internet, which is a terrific learning tool. For example, a couple of years ago when he was 12, my son used the internet for a 6th grade report on bestiality. And in the article, Franken goes on to fantasize about a machine that would perform oral sex on him. And it gets worse. In 2008, when Franken was running for Senate, he was forced to apologize for what he wrote in Playboy and his crude and appalling comments about Leslie Stahl. But in his new book, Franken actually said
these liberal lunatics are crazy.
In order to win votes, his own words, he writes.
They're so sick. They have no freaking moral values. That's why they're predominantly all atheists.
Sorry that I had written Pornorama or pitched that stupid Leslie Stahl joke at 2 in the morning. I was just doing.
And they think that's going to replace Christian culture? Give me a fucking break.
Any apology from Senator Grope, it will only be lies in order to win votes in the future. Examples of Franken's despicable behavior don't end there. During a Friars Club roast of Rob Reiner, Franken made jokes about infant rape. How sick do you have to be to make jokes about raping babies? Then you have Senator Franken explaining how he considered calling Republicans, quote, gay when they didn't attend a hearing on an LGBT bill. Watch this.
We had a bill called the End Discrimination in Employment Non-Discrimination Act. So no Republican showed up for the hearing, which I had never seen before. I've been there for 4 or 5 months, and this is the first hearing I've been in where a whole party just didn't show up. So I'm sort of last in line, I think, of saying, like, I think it's a shame that none of the gay members of the committee showed up.
So that's with the devil on one side.
Well, the devil was saying, tell the joke, it'll kill.
To top it all off, there's this photo from 2000 of Al Franken actually, again, groping Joy Behar on a red carpet. Maybe they thought it was funny, but it makes a lot of people uncomfortable, especially in light of the photo we saw with Leanne Tweeden. Looks repulsive. He doesn't even try to hide it. In 2 cases, he's literally posing for the camera. It makes you wonder, are there other photos Franken doing the same thing? Just to recap quickly, Franken is accused of groping and kissing a woman, accused of harassing another. He's made comments about drugging and raping at women and is also homophobic, clearly. Doesn't end there. Senator Al Franken is also a hypocrite when it comes to women speaking out about sexual abuse. Just take a look at some of his tweets. While we must address sexual harassment, reforming arbitration laws will ensure survivors can seek justice in court. Thanks to courageous people who have shared #MeToo stories, including Senator Heitkamp and Senator Arano and Senator Claire McCaskill and Senator Warren. Now, Franken also praised the women who exposed Harvey Weinstein. It's kind of hypocritical. Think about this for a second. Just 1 second tonight. That picture of Leanne Tweeden, just for 1 second, you see that got released today. Imagine it was showing a Republican. Imagine the president, Trump, was in that picture. How would the media act on that issue tonight? They would be apoplectic. Right. It would be the biggest news story of the year. They'd be breathlessly condemning the incident, demanding that person resign immediately, not just calling for an ethics committee hearing. Tonight, Senator Al Franken, well, he should be ashamed, as he said he is, because it is repulsive. Leanne Tweeden is asleep. We have to ask again, given this information, everything we now know. Now, considering everyone's raising questions, who's fit for this office and who's fit for that office? Is Senator Franklin fit for office? Now, Senator Franken clearly is a pretty sick, twisted individual with a warped sense of humor in his own mind that really isn't funny, but his actions do need to be evaluated. At the end of the day, it will be the people in his home state that decide. And what's really shocking, what's really outrageous, is that Senator Franken is not alone when it comes to accusations of sexual misconduct against members of Congress. According to a new office compliance numbers that were released today, since 1997, 15 million of your taxpayer dollars have been used to settle allegations of sexual misconduct, discrimination, and other cases against members of Congress. Why don't they pay themselves? In other words, you're subsidizing their behavior. And for years, it's been kept secret, even though there have been 264 cases settled. Now, there are also
264 cases settled.
Creep list.
264 cases settled. With your taxpayer money.
And finally tonight,
this is why all these predators want to create the centralized state, so they can steal and not pay for their crimes and make you pay for them.
And how Hillary smeared.
These people are sick.
We definitely
They smeared, slandered, besmirched. We went into it in great detail last night in our opening monologue.
And look at the rapist, Bill Clinton.
We encourage you, if you didn't see
it. Coming back, Clinton. You thought you could get away. You thought you can get away, you little criminals. You little murdering rapists.
Bill Clinton, we kind of enabled him. He is a sexual predator. Take a look at some of these headlines. One from Vox. It says, Bill Clinton should have resigned. What he did to Monica Lewinsky was wrong and should have paid the price. The New York Times even says, what about Bill Clinton? What about Bill's sexual misconduct debate revised questions about Clinton?
When they supported and protected him, you dishonest, hypocritical piece of trash.
Democrats, and they like their policies. It's time they all come forward. They enabled that abusive, predatory behavior for decades. And by the way, as a result, many women suffered. We have a lot more to come.
Wow. So Hannity breaking down that whole scenario. Very good report by Hannity there.
If people are going to use taxpayer money to settle their sexual harassment cases, we definitely need to know their names.
I mean, that is outrageous, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, think about it. Insane that, and according to the law, we're not even allowed to know their names.
Change the law.
Who they are.
Change the law.
This is how pathetic. And see, this is why Washington makes laws to protect itself. This is why in Chaniguk, The congressmen cannot pass all these crazy laws that just add and add and add. And every year, 10% of laws disappear. Disappear. Because these are the type of laws that they create to protect their deviant, sociopathic, socialist, communist, sexual predator behavior. But not in the kingdom of God.
He said 236?
64. 264 cases that were settled using taxpayer money. 15 million.
And we don't get to know their names?
You know, every time you get a little check from your employer, and it's immediately taken away, about 30%, 50% to some people, is immediately evaporated. That's the government stealing from you. That's the government steal not only your money, but your hours of your life. So thank Satan that you live in his kingdom where he can ravage you and forcefully steal from you every single month. Lord, 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 we ask God's kingdom would come so that a man can keep the fruit of his labor and raise his children to be honorable, good, and successful, God-loving and God-fearing people who love God with all their strength, soul, and might, and love their neighbor as they love themselves. Right back after a short break. Stay with us.
To me, God is holding on, and when the night is holding on to me, God is holding on.
Sometimes abstinence education gets a stereotype for being weak or unrealistic, but urban life training is absolutely very real and upfront with detailed statistics, real-life examples about the detrimental psychological and physical effects of premarital sex. And that's something that I feel is not discussed enough in other educational arenas, and I highly recommend taking urban life training.
Hi everyone, I'm Erica Smith, former star guide with Ultra Teen Choice, now Urban Life Training, and I greatly benefited from being part of the organization. Not only did the free sessions educate me about the consequences of having premarital sex, such as STDs and unwanted pregnancy, but it also gave me the platform to be a role model for my peers and actually mentor youth in the Washington, D.C. community. And that was an awesome experience for me. So I really encourage you to attend the upcoming Urban Life Training this fall.
I'm Jasmine, 17. and I live in Southeast Washington, D.C. I think everybody should really come to the Ultra Teen Choice meetings. They're really informative. You should come. And if you're interested in learning more about like stuff you didn't know was in the Bible, like stuff you just didn't learn, or if you really, really, really are serious about being abstinent, I really think you should be here. Like everybody should come. Keep telling all my friends, all the people I see at school, you know, but I think that everybody should just join the group so that we could grow in Christ and become part of the true family.
I believe that the information that they have is really life-changing and, you know, practical. And so what he's sharing with you is real life, thing that is happening right now, you know, in our world as it pertains to marriage and living a sexually pure life and, you know, making the right choice, whether you are a teenager, an adolescent, a young adult, whether you are single or you're married, you're looking to be married. Those are some things that I believe this training will bring to light to you. And so I encourage you to, you know, seek him out and seek the program out, and I'm pretty sure that your life won't be the same.
Hi, this is Richard Urban, co-founder of Urban Life Training. This conference provides a practical and scriptural framework for the teaching of sexual abstinence in preparation for marriage. This is arguably the most important topic in today's world. So we hope that you'll come out and take advantage of these great resources that will help you and also the youth and young adults, you know, be leaders in this topic in your community. We look forward to seeing you November 24th through 26th, and register now to receive early bird discounts. We'll see you then.
Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Our God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring
revolution somehow. And love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring, he's roaring like a lion, roaring like a lion.
And we are back. Welcome back to King's Report, Friday, November 17, 2017. I am your host, Hyung Sean Moon, the second king of Chaniguk, broadcasting live from the Chaniguk Palace Studios. And we are, of course, broadcasting to all the kings and queens of the kingdom of God. And here you go. Wow, okay, here we go. Yeah, bring her in, bring her in. Look at her. Ella, come here, baby. Come here, girl. Come here, Ella. Ella, come here, girl. Come on, babe. Come on. There you go. Now look at the canine extraction unit. And here's Toini with her tactical vest on and her pouches. She's got pouches now with survival items in there. And that's her tactical vest. And she's got the cool American flag patch, tactical patch with Punisher logo because she punishes evil. She punishes the evildoers. And check this out. In her pouch, we just open this little attack pouch here. Clip her in. And we're ready to go. She's ready to fight and battle evil wherever it may reside. Okay, baby, what you headed to do? You ready to? You headed to fight evil? You headed to fight evil? But how cute is her cute tactical vest? So she will have a whole mini survival kit in here, first aid kit, and a small Scooby snack kit, and a water bottle kit. So she'll be able to carry on her wonderful snackies as she trains with her daddy out in the wild. And look at this, they have her extraction handles here. This is for large canines to control them in the canine units. But this has 2 extraction units, and of course she's a smaller doggy, so she can be extracted very quickly. All right, girl. Thank you for your demonstration today. Great job with your multi-cam camel molly strap with 2 pouches. You are definitely styling, baby doll. Great job. Let's show the viewers one more time, okay? Then you can go to mommy. We'll show it in the extraction unit system. Whew. There she goes. There she goes. Yes, the deadly canine Toyin. Be careful where you reside and walk in the Chunical Palace. You may get canined out. All right, babe. Go to mommy. Go on. Go on. Go on, girl. Go on. Go to mommy. She don't want to go nowhere. Okay, you want to stay with daddy. Okay, you stay with daddy then. All right, folks. Let's get back to the headline news with our tactical dog, Toyin, this morning. King of Saudi Arabia plans to step down and announce his son as his successor next week. This is in Saudi Arabia. The source said King Salman will continue only as a ceremonial figurehead, handing over official leadership of the country to his son, often referred to as MBS. That is Mohammed bin Salman. The move is seen as a final step in 32-year-old Prince Mohammed bin Salman's power grab, which began earlier this month with the arrest of more than 40 princes and government ministers in a, quote, corruption probe. Of course, we know that's a purging. We, of course, know that that is a purging. What is that? How do I get rid of this thing? All right, that's not letting me get rid of that. Thank you. There you go. Here is the king here, Salman. And this is the Prince Salman who will take over. Here are pictures of the princes that were arrested. Come on. And they are on the floor of the Ritz-Carlton. Prince Mohammed bin Salman, 32, ordered the arrest of more than 40 princes and government ministers in a, quote, corruption probe, and had them sleep on the thin mattresses in the function room of the Ritz-Carlton pictured above. There is Trump meeting MBS. The high-level source said once crowned king, the prince will shift his focus to Iran, a long-standing rival oil empire to Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, with fears military action is possible. He will also enlist the help of Israeli military to crush Hezbollah, the Lebanese militia supported by Iran, according to the source. MBS is convinced that he has to hit Iran, and Hezbollah he said, contrary to the advice of the royal family elders, that's MBS's next target. Hence why the ruler of Kuwait privately calls him the Raging Bull. MBS's plan is to start the fire in Lebanon, but he's hoping to count on Israeli military backing. He has already promised Israel billions of dollars in direct financial aid if they agree. MBS cannot confront Hezbollah in Lebanon without Israel. Plan B is to fight Hezbollah in Syria, the source says. President Trump tweets, I have great confidence in King Salman and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. They know exactly what they're doing.
Well, we hope so.
Some of those they are harshly treating have been milking their country for years. Last week, Prime Minister of Lebanon made what is believed to be a forced resignation of Saudi television after being summoned to Riyadh by Prince Mohammed. Saad al-Harari said in his resignation speech that he was afraid of being assassinated and accused Iran of working with Hezbollah. Tension has been rising between Saudi Arabia and Iran after the Saudi government blamed Iran for a foiled missile attack near Riyadh on November 4th. The rocket was fired from neighboring Yemen and was heading towards Saudi Arabia before it was shot down. Saudi Foreign Minister Adel Jubar said Iran was responsible and called the attack an act of war. So you can see, again, things starting to heat up in the Middle East.
Dr. Warner yesterday said that...
Go ahead, Tim, yeah.
Dr. Warner yesterday said that these princes who were arrested, they all have their supporters in the military. And so he was raising the possibility that there would be some kind of a blowback from this, from some factions within the military. We'll have to see, but this 32-year-old prince is certainly going for broke. He's certainly going for the whole prize. He wants to become king now, and so he's even making his father resign to abdicate.
Wow.
Yeah.
So those are massive changes now in Saudi Arabia coming about. He's, quote, the more liberal leader, but there he goes, going after Iraq. I guess starting wars is liberal due to the fact that Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize but started 6 wars. I guess that's what it means to be liberal. And the Saudi king will step down this week or next week in the very close future. 3 resignations in a month for inappropriate behavior rocked the State House of Ohio 1 minute before midnight Tuesday. State Representative Wes Goodman offered his resignation letter. That letter ends his political career after a year in office. Senate Minority Leader Kenny Yuko, who accepted the resignation of Senate Democrat Chief of Staff Michael Primo on Tuesday over similar allegations, called the resignation disappointing. 10 TV has learned the allegations of inappropriate conduct involving Representative Goodman happened inside his Rift Center office, but no one in the State House is saying what the inappropriate conduct was. We know it did not involve a member of his staff or a member of the legislature. When it was discovered and by whom, it has not been made public. No complaint was filed, so we don't even know what they're doing. All we're just told is some inappropriate behavior. I'm not going to get into this practice of telling people who they should have in their car or whether their door should be open or not. I think we all know what behavior is appropriate and what behavior isn't. And if somebody's engaging in inappropriate behavior, you won't be here very long, he said. So they said somebody was in their car, maybe a prostitute or something like that, engaged in inappropriate behavior, which you're not releasing. It's absolutely amazing how all these things are starting to explode in Satan's world. Satan's world is showing, under the light of the noontime sun, that centralized power corrupts and predators aggregate and collect and gather near centralized power, which is the reason why China does not have centralized power. Look at this. Sylvester Stallone is accused of sexually assaulting a 16-year-old fan. Police reports reveals girl claims star made her give him and his bodyguard oral sex and threatened they would beat her head if she ever told. Wow. Stallone is accused of sexually assaulting a 16-year-old fangirl while he was filming Over the Top in Las Vegas in 1986, according to the police report obtained exclusively by DailyMail.com. The actor, who was 40 years old at the time, met the teenager while he was filming at the former Las Vegas Hilton Hotel, and she was given keys to his room. Oh, my God. Stallone allegedly had sex with the girl, telling her she was very tight before asking the minor if she had ever had sex with 2 men at the same time. The girl claims Stallone's bodyguard, Michael DeLuca, who was in the bathroom until Stallone brought him out, forced her to give him oral sex. Oh, my gosh. After performing oral sex on DeLuca for some time, the teen claimed he penetrated her while she was made to perform oral sex on Stallone. Now, these are allegations, but if this is true, these people are sick. Yeah. The teen told police became very uncomfortable when DeLuca joined in on the sexual encounter, but said she felt she had no choice in the matter. Afterwards, the teen claims Stallone said she couldn't tell anything because both men were married, and if she said anything, they would have to beat her head in. Jesus. Police said she decided not to press charges against the men because she was scared and humiliated. She was only 16 years old. This was in the 1980s, apparently. The Rocky actor was 40 years old when an unnamed teenager disclosed to Las Vegas police that she had been intimidated into having sex with him and his bodyguard Michael DeLuca at the former Las Vegas Hilton Hotel in 1986. Not a surprising or unrealistic scenario given the fact that Hollywood is surrounded by these power moguls that have sex with young kids. And of course, this is a problem. This is a problem with the performing arts or with art in general. They get the girls to believe it's all make-believe. You see what I'm saying? It's like this game of make-believe. So you're there doing make-believe and, you know, pretending you're somebody that you're not. And then you're supposed to be creative and artistic, so you have to leave your mind open. And then in that state of a, quote, opened mind with no amygdala function, and in a state where you're all pretending, well, then you have a vulnerable state. And that's why you have in these, quote, artsy towns where everything's about art and it's all about the performance. You have women who are letting down their guard because they're hanging around these guys all the time and they're in these open states and many times there's drugs involved and things like that. And they're just mesmerized by these guys because they're, quote, actors and they're such great performers and you know, things like that. And they just fall into this ethos, this club ethos of drugs, alcohol, rock and roll, sex, looseness, moral looseness, no supervision, opened mind states of artsy fairyland pretending, you know what I'm saying? There's all this kind of open, what that means, open means non-discriminating mind. It means not having proper amygdala function, not seeing threats, not being able to identify threats because you're in this open state of sort of this high drugged out, you know, a mind state wherein which men or women can take advantage of you. Predators can take advantage of you. So you can see these children, of course, you know, at this stage she was a child. How she could be pressured into this, is it true? Who knows? It was made 30 years ago almost. But would it be surprising, Mr.? No, because Hollywood, as it is coming out, is now being exposed with all the pedophile rings and the pedophile protectors and the Marty Weisses who are grooming children to rape them and have pedophilia sex with them and to exploit young boys, giving them blowjobs at 11 years old. I mean, these people are sick. It is sick. And the demonic culture and the Baal worship culture and the abortion baby killing culture and the pedophile child raping culture and the destroying and exploitative culture of Hollywood and the, quote, performing arts are coming out. Senator Al Franken grabbing Leanne Tweeden's breast while she's sleeping, taking pictures of thinking it's funny. You see what I'm saying? It's all this make-believe comedy, performing arts. It's all this culture of looseness, sexual depravity and looseness, which makes them believe they can get away with this kind of thing. But that's only a cover for the more hardcore politicians who are behind the scenes, like Bill Clinton actually raping women and having settled with, what, 17 to 19 women. All this Hollywood, you know, performing arts, sex culture is there for the protection of the Hollywood culture, which they're using taxpayer money, this $15 million of your hard-earned money to subsidize 264 sexual assaults, and then the settlement cases $15 million of taxpayer-funded money. This is ridiculous. This is absurd. But again, whenever one of these scandals come out about, what's his name, Al Franken, immediately you have another article that's released by the same newspapers talking about Hollywood, because they know that the political powers are more powerful than Hollywood, and they know they have to protect the political powers to establish and maintain their leftist lunatic control of the deep state. Because in the end, people of the deep state are also involved in these cults as well. But of course, Hollywood is a convenient trope. It's a convenient little perverted trope of performing artists where they can gather them and use them whenever something scandalous is breaking about Democratic leaders or Republican leaders or any political leaders, which are the real predators of centralized power. They can use the Hollywood actors' little, sexcapades as cover to divert the attention, because most of the mainstream brain-dead public only knows the stars and doesn't know the politicians who actually have the real control to steal, to forcefully make you do things, to put you in prison, you name it. So it's a great scapegoat for the political elite, who are the political Satanists and who are the political Marxists and communists that actually rule with centralized archangelic satanic power over you, and they have the power to literally steal, kill, and destroy you, which the Bible says, of course, Satan steals, kills, and destroys. It's unbelievable. And then at the same time, they get used mass media, which they own, and they collude with George Soros and Rothschild Bank, you name it, international bankers, to then brainwash young people to not be involved and be interested in politics. Meanwhile, they're brainwashed to see the stars and the glitz and glamour and to be attracted to them like little gnats going to or mosquitoes going to a blue light, which they'll be zapped and killed at once they touch it. Unbelievable. So isn't it funny that as allegations of Al Franken come out, well, all of a sudden you have allegations at the same time being released of Hollywood allegations. They're always covering up for themselves. Again, slow connection, but do we have a connection here? Totally ridiculous. The power elite and the super class is becoming exposed. And those who sell their souls to try to get into it, like Hollywood, are only used as scapegoats to cover up for the demonic practices of the actual super elite, who can actually literally, by force, steal, kill, and destroy. We'll be right back with a short break as we fix this internet problem.
Hi, I'm Joby Gorgas with Magnum Research. I'm here to tell you a little bit about our new L5 and 44 mag. This is our 5-inch model, lightweight model. It's got an aluminum grip frame, shaving down the weight so that we can get it under 50 ounces so that it's New York legal. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to properly hold the L5 for function. When shooting a Desert Eagle, you want to make sure that your dominant arm is locked out, pushing back into the back of the grip. Your secondary hand is holding around the front of the grip to keep the muzzle flip down. This gives you a good firm hold for proper cycling. We got to remember that the Desert Eagle is a gas-operated rotating bolt semi-automatic pistol, not unlike an AR system. I also want to talk to you about the stance for shooting the Desert Eagle. When shooting the Desert Eagle, you need a good firm base, so you want to step into your direction, get that arm locked, that support hand on, and lean forward into it so that you can handle that recoil.
You're ready. Please stand by. About 33.
Hi, I'm Joby Gorgas with Magnum Research. I'm here to tell you a little bit about our new L5 and 44 mag. This is our 5-inch model, lightweight model. It's got an aluminum grip frame, shaving down the weight so that we can get it under 50 ounces so that it's New York legal. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to properly hold the L5 for function. When shooting a Desert Eagle, you want to make sure that your dominant arm is locked out, pushing back into the back of the grip. Your secondary hand is holding around the front of the grip to keep the muzzle flip down. This gives you a good firm hold for proper cycling. We got to remember that the Desert Eagle is a gas-operated rotating bolt semi-automatic pistol, not unlike an AR system. I also want to talk to you about the stance for shooting the Desert Eagle. When shooting the Desert Eagle, you need a good firm base, so you want to step into your direction, get that arm locked, that support hand on, and lean forward into it so that you can handle that recoil.
There's
And we are back. Welcome back to the King's Report, Friday, November 17th, 2017. Send King reporting live to all the kings and queens of the kingdom of God. CNBC is reporting House Republicans pass tax reform bill. The GOP plan for tax overhaul cleared the House on Thursday. The House plan would chop the corporate tax rate to 20% from 35%. And make other tweaks aiming to make businesses more competitive. That would be an enormous tax cut for the corporate rate. House Republicans on Thursday passed a monumental bill to cut taxes on businesses and individuals, the biggest step yet in the GOP's once-in-a-generation effort to overhaul the American tax system. The tax reform plan passed the chamber with 227 votes in favor and 205 against. To pass the bill, the House GOP had to overcome opposition from several of its members who live in high-tax blue states. Those lawmakers objected to the proposal's curb on popular state and local tax deductions. The House plan would permanently chop the corporate tax rate to 20% from 35% and make other tweaks aiming to make businesses more competitive. It would reduce individual tax brackets to 4 from 7 and make changes to several tax breaks. Among them, the bill would limit state and local deductions and the mortgage interest deduction, eliminate the personal exemption, and nearly double the standard deduction. The vote marks a significant achievement as Republicans push to put a tax bill on President Donald Trump's desk by Christmas. Trump, who along with most congressional Republicans ran on a pledge to trim taxes, went to Capitol Hill to push GOP lawmakers to support the bill before the vote. Last Thursday, Trump called the vote a big step towards fulfilling our promise to deliver historic tax cuts for the American people by the end of the year. Despite passage of the bill Thursday, pitfalls await the party. Senate Republicans hope to pass their own bill as soon as the week after Thanksgiving, when GOP Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin opposes the chamber's bill as written. Several other Republicans in the Senate, where the GOP holds a slim two-seat majority, have expressed doubts about the upper chamber's version. The budget deficits generated by chopping tax rates, the expiration of individual tax cuts in 2025, and the effective repeal of Obamacare's individual mandate could all turn into sticking points in the Senate plan. The Senate Finance Committee is expected to approve the chamber's bill by Friday. Should the Senate GOP pass its bill, the two chambers will have to craft a joint plan before Congress can pass final legislation. Agreeing on legislation carries its own challenges, like raising the money to comply with Senate budget rules without alienating Republican lawmakers. Complicating matters for the Senate is a joint committee on taxation analysis released Thursday, which says the average taxes for all income groups would go up by 2027 after initially dropping under its plan. The most significant difference between the chamber's plans is the treatment of state and local tax deductions. The Senate plan would eliminate those deductions entirely. The measure could alienate some House Republicans who voted for the chamber's bill that would allow up to $10,000 in property tax deductions. On Wednesday, House Speaker Paul Ryan told CNBC that keeping some type of state and local deduction would be necessary to make sure middle-class taxpayers in high-tax states like New York, California, and New Jersey get relief. After the bill's passage, Republican Dan Donovan of New York told CNBC that he voted no because of the elimination of the ability to deduct state and local taxes. This is unfair to New Yorkers. I'm in favor of reforming our tax code. It's overburdensome, it's complex, it's unfair. But the one thing that we have to do is make sure that all Americans receive a tax cut. Donovan said he believes New Yorkers deserve the same break the rest of America is going to get and not pay for the tax cut that the rest of the nation is going to see. Before the vote on Thursday, 4 New York Republican lawmakers who announced they would oppose the House bill said they would fight to keep the deductions when they are debated in the conference committee. Most Americans would see taxes reduced under the plan as passed by the House Ways and Means Committee, according to the Tax Policy Center, but roughly a quarter of Americans could have their taxes hiked by 2027, the analysis said. The Republican plan is expected to get no Democratic support throughout the process. The party, which already criticized the GOP bill as a giveaway to the wealthy, got more fuel for its opposition when the Senate added the Obamacare individual mandate repeal to its bill. And of course, I wouldn't be surprised, of course, if McCain comes back from the grave to block this again. McCain. What a tremendous, treasonous traitor to the American people. That man needs to be completely fired from his position. And of course, the voters of Arizona will have to do so. Getting rid of the provision would lead to an estimated 13 million more people without health insurance by 2027, according to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. Doing so would also hike health care premiums, etc. Republicans say their plan will trim the tax burden on the middle class and push business to create jobs and boost wages. The message so far has not resonated with voters, according to the recent public poll done by CNBC, which is a leftist lunatic organization. And the Quinnipiac poll, give me the Quinnipiac poll. That's one of the most liberal, most leftist polls ever. They had Hillary Rodham Clinton winning 99%.
Chance of winning, yes.
Ridiculous polling. Ridiculous fake news, fake polling. But of course, if Trump is able to reduce the tax rate from 35% to 20%, that's a massive savings for corporate entities. And those corporations will stay in because they will create, and they will, of course, create more jobs for the middle class. It doesn't help if all our jobs are being shipped out to China and to India. And if, Coach was talking about, if Trump is able to help individuals with tax relief, at the same time keep companies in the United States by reducing their corporate tax burden, and at the same time imposing tariffs on imports such as from China or India, then we have a situation where we could potentially have 4% growth in the economy, which would then be a sustainable trajectory for paying off the, or he was saying that it can be solvent and be able to essentially pay off the debt over time, not in the next 4 years. Of course, the danger is you always could get a leftist, lunatic, socialist, Marxist, commie Democrat in there who will then reverse everything that Trump does and, in fact, use that as a trump card, no pun intended, to increase the tax corporate rate beyond 35%, saying that all the years of reducing it has created holes in the economy, and now we have to reduce it back over 35%, which they always are pushing for. It is just, it is literally like they're selling out America, wanting to deindustrialize because they have foreign backers and foreign donors, George Soros, Rothschild, International Banking Group, you name it. The cartels have them in their pocket. And their whole aim and objective is to implode America, weaken it, deindustrialize it, disarm it so that it can come under the control of the UN and the EU, and that we can be ruled from Brussels and from Switzerland, Geneva. I mean, this is ridiculous. You can't even rule Switzerland from Geneva. You can't even rule Europe from Brussels, let alone across the entire freaking ocean. How are you going to rule over America like King George III trying to keep this as a colony? These super elites are literal colonialists who want to have the whole world in a hegemonic control grid in which they can literally give you serial numbers and they can track and they can monitor and surveil every aspect of human behavior so that they can use it against you with technology and AI and algorithms and the different surveillance networks so that anything can be held against you in a court of law. And if you ever get uppity, they can destroy you and your family and your network, completely eradicating you from the planet. Because why? They are the predatory class and they have colluded with the different governments of the archangelic power of this world to then centralize power to themselves in which they can create an environment and a political, sociological reality in which predators can thrive. They can prey and exploit the weak. They can prey and exploit the vulnerable. They can prey and exploit the handicapped. They can prey and exploit normal, hardworking taxpayer people so that they themselves can be existing in their predatory nature without any recourse, without any means by which they are held accountable, without any bodies that can bring them to justice and or court, just like the BIS, which is not above the laws of international law, but just like the International crime syndicates, which are above the law because they own the nation, including the money supply, which of course then controls the politicians, which of course then controls law enforcement, and nobody can take them to court. It is a rigged system of Satanism at the very top, where these individuals are literally involved in satanic rituals, practicing literal Satanists. I mean, this is just absurd and ridiculous how wicked and depraved these workers of iniquity are. And they want to guilt shame the normal man for being honest and wanting to abide by morality and Christianity, which they see as the gravest threat, and they'll ally with radical jihadi Islam to eradicate Christianity, because it is the fundamental moral framework and building block of a successful, free, and prosperous civilization. Because it instills morals and goodness within people and compels them to not follow their human fallen behavior, but to follow the example of Christ, who even died and sacrificed himself for the sins of many and the world, and even stood to reform and to restore fallen humanity to the grace of God. It is just too much. But of course, if President Trump can decrease the tax burden on corporations, well, then you'll have businesses that want to stay in the U.S. more readily, and you'll have people who want to create businesses and want to succeed in the marketplace, so that and they'll be properly rewarded for serving their customers. What is so wrong with wanting to help people help other people? These politicians and the political elitist socialist class are complete, total liars and fraudsters who love perching atop of you, lecturing you on Fox News and CNN on what you must do and help them pass this or that bill. All these people need to be fired. And of course, Chani and the kingdom of God must come, so that these type of predators have nowhere to succeed. We'll be right back after a short break. Stay with us. It is crazy.
Now I'm lost in your freedom.
and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Our God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring like a lion. He's roaring alive. He's roaring, he's roaring, he's roaring alive, roaring like a lion. God's not dead. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to see a revolution somehow. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake.
And we are back. Welcome back to King Sport Friday, November 17th, 2017. Broadcasting live to all the kings and queens of the kingdom. And here we are today. We're joined as our special guest with Helmut Gustav Hensel. Did I say that right, Helmut?
Perfect.
I'm sorry if I butchered that. Helmut is currently a marketing consultant with Spring Hill Laser Services, a total fulfillment marketing company. He's, of course, married to his wonderful wife for 41 years. Beautiful, amazing. 3 sons, all married, 4 granddaughters, former director of a national marketing company, 112 offices, studied and taught in Europe and South America, undergraduate and graduate degrees, plus seminary degree, senior instructor at the U.S. Army Chaplain Academy, senior instructor at the U.S. Army Chaplain School, Christian school administrator to 1,000 students, was a board member at various sports ministries, elder and church missions director, business owner, camping program director, biking and wilderness stress camping, NRA, and game hunting instructor. Wow. Amazing. Helmut, you've done it all. You've done it all. Now, of course, thank you so much, of course, for joining us this morning. It's always a pleasure to see you, my friend. We are dealing with such incredible depravity, which has now come to the open. You know, when could you turn on CNN and hear the endless array of pedophile scandals that are coming out? You had CNN just a few months ago, about a year or two ago, trying to justify pedophilia. The left was trying to move after they justified homosexuality, after they justified transgenderism, after they justified every which way of sexual deviance they can think of. Now they were trying to justify minor attraction syndrome, which is more known as pedophilia. But they were trying to label it minor attraction syndrome, saying it's not a crime, it's a disease, and we should have compassion for the sick, you see. We should have, you remember how they did this with homosexual agenda too? Have compassion for the sick. It's not their choice. They're born that way. It's biological. This whole argument. It's the same repeated argument, but now for more deviant forms of sexual, immoral, depraved acts. You have this situation even today, top news. Married science teacher 22 arrested for sex romp with teenage boy, where she was luring these young students of hers into an apartment with candlelit lights off, ready to have sexcapades with her students. And you see this now happening more and more. And of course, she was arrested. And of course, she should be as well. Tell us about your opinion about, of course, the current state of affairs, how America has fallen from its biblical roots as a founding, and let us know your thoughts about the current state of America's morality, and why would morality be important for a nation or civilization?
Well, yeah, having a varied background. For me, it changes about every 8 to 10 years. And being at my age of 71, I haven't figured out yet what I'm going to do when I grow up. So, but
well, you look great for 71.
Thanks. But having started off really as a mechanical contractor, and then realizing there's more to life than just making money and going to a job, investing my life into children and kids, went back to college. Ended up being a coach and a teacher, and taught for 2 years in public school. Hated it.
Really? Wow.
The principal changed the grades of 2 of my students.
Whoa.
And they said, well, you can't fail them. He thought I was being a wise guy. When he asked, I was young and just out of college, and he said, why did you give them an F, these 2 students? I said, well, when they don't show up for class and they're disruptive and they think I'm a supply house, that's the lowest grade I could give them. And he thought I was being a smart aleck. And but anyway, he changed the grades, and I said, I'm wasting my time here. So I decided to go back into business. But I ended up actually working at another Christian school, about 1,000 students, and moving into getting a graduate degree and moving into administration. You want to have changes made in education. Loved that. I mean, you had support of the parents. You had your own curriculum. You don't have the nonsense that's going on today.
Right.
And the sad part is most of the good teachers were leaving education. It was not just a job. And most of them had no idea of the history in the background with Horace Mann and John Dewey, who were both secular humanists.
Oh my gosh, yeah, Horace Mann.
And prior to that, all schools were either church-related or independent.
The Prussian educational system.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
And so just looking at some of the history and stuff, I had to educate them. They left the sugarcoating in, some Bible reading and prayer and so forth. But it became a joke. And when we actually moved up here, I wanted to raise our boys up outside of Philadelphia. And they said, why would you put them in a small private school? You're an educator. I said, I'm more concerned about the kind of people my sons are coming.
Yes.
Their character, the morality.
Yes.
If I want the teachers to be supporting, we're responsible for their education, not the school. That was a foreign concept to a lot of them. And I said, if they become the right kind of people, they can handle any situation. And it was interesting. One of my sons was going pre-med. He needed a couple courses for college. So in the last 2 years, we did transfer them over because of certain courses that they needed. And they said, oh, well, we have a hard time. It actually was a local school district, considered a very good school district. And the principal said, well, we'll put them on one of the lower sections because they came from this little school. The interesting part is they all tested out at 99 percentile nationally.
Wow.
I said, if they can't cut it, we've been paying taxes all this time, have not taken advantage of this. I said, if they can't cut it, move them down. Well, there's a lot of egos and going on. And knowing that, I said, well, if you don't have the authority or the ability to do that, I said, we pick and choose our battles. This will be one of them. And we'll just take it up to the next level of the board. It was interesting because of the egos involved from the administration. The next day they had their classes. Within 2 weeks, though, it was interesting. My oldest son, within 2 weeks after school, was picked to be the captain of the soccer team. He was president of the choir. The other one was picked to be involved in the leader in the musical and drama and so forth. At the end of that year, they received all kinds of accolades from the school. And what the school would do, they would pick the top 20 students. And they had the parents in. They would 5 at a time meet in front of the school board. And it was interesting. Even the superintendent said, he said it was interesting that every one of the children that were brought forward had both parents.
Wow.
That was unusual.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know we're definitely in a minority now, having both parents.
That's right.
And just historically, I was thinking about I can't remember the gentleman's name. I have it written down. That came from France after the French Revolution. He was over here to study the penal system. But what fascinated him was they had already executed like 40,000 people in France. And when he was here back in the 1700s, he said he was amazed. What makes the United States unique was the Bible.
Yes.
And basing the Constitution and everything on that. So the uniqueness of the United States, it's like I'm thinking about the whole educational system. I have a copy of a test from 1895, what an 8th grader had to know to graduate from, to be a graduate of 8th grade. Most college students couldn't pass that test. It's really intimidating. But education, they were at age 14, at age 11, John Quincy Adams, our 6th president, son of John Adams, at age 11 spoke 4 languages fluently.
Yes, right.
And was also picked because of his ability and literacy, as a secretary to the delegation that went to France. At age 14, he was on the delegation.
11 years old.
Excuse me?
At that young of an age.
Well, the education was a lot better.
It was.
At age 14, he was on the delegation to Russia.
Isn't that amazing? 14 years old.
Right. And he was the guy that served as president, but he was the only president that ever came back and fulfilled the rest of his life serving in Congress.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually interacted with William Wilberforce in England to fight slavery. And he actually submitted, like over 600 bills in Congress to eliminate slavery.
Wow.
John Quincy. and it upset Congress because there was still a lot of conflict.
Well, you know, there's a whole, people
Go ahead.
say all the founding fathers were white supremacists and they loved owning slaves and the whole economy was built on them. It was only two-thirds did not own slaves. Did you know that? Two-thirds of the founding fathers did not own slaves.
Right.
And even George Washington, for example, he wanted to release his slaves immediately, but it was against the law in Virginia where he resided. So, of course, he did it in the fastest fashion that he could, because that is when you die, you release your slaves. But the whole notion that young people are brainwashed with all the founding fathers, these are all, you know, white supremacists, they're all racist, they're all exploiters of blacks, etc. But they never taught, for example, of the Arabian trans-Saharan slave trade, which was the most brutal slave trade, two-thirds of which were women. It was geared fully around sex slavery, which of course is legal in Islam and jihadis,
Right.
according to that entire Sharia law civilization. But you mentioned the biblical principles, because in school you used to learn, you're supposed to learn character building things, and not only this kind of brainwashing, this kind of mechanical, state-run, you know, multiple question answering. You were actually taught critical thinking. You know, you had biblical morality and critical thinking, really the foundations of Western civilization. And this was actually taught to people. Now you get these Antifa children who are graduating from high school and different colleges. They can't even string together a coherent sentence with logic at all. They just scream bigot and racist whenever they disagree.
One of the schools my son went to was Liberty University.
Oh wow, is that great?
Okay, and it was interesting. The Liberty, the liberal media really downplays it, but their debating team, for example, has beat out Princeton, Yale, Harvard.
Oh wow!
And it just shocked people. But you're talking about critical thinking and so forth.
Yeah, yeah.
They underestimate the education, but the problem a lot of times is because of the lack of that biblical basis, you don't have absolute standards anymore. Everybody's right, nobody's right.
It's relativism. It's totally relativism.
Right. You were talking about the slavery issue. Most people are familiar with Amistad, the ship, and that whole, when they tried those people, you know who was their legal for that? The defense attorney was John Quincy Adams.
There you go. There's Quincy Adams again.
Now, the interesting part, there were 9 judges. 8 of them were slave owners.
Wow. When
he finished that trial, it was a unanimous decision by all 9 to free them.
Isn't that incredible?
That was just amazing, some of the things. And it was interesting that at the end of his life, and he was nationally recognized, there was a young congressman that came in, and they became very close. That young congressman was Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, I heard of Abe.
Yeah, and he was also the guy that eliminated, for at least for that time period, made the major step in removing slavery from our nation.
I mean, it was amazing. Just under the Obama administration, just, you know, DHS was releasing documents which they would train their people under, saying that the founding fathers would be designated as domestic terrorists. They would be designated as domestic terrorists in today's parlance and today's legal structure. Anybody who stood up for any type of sovereignty and or freedom and critical thought was labeled a domestic terrorist. In 2012, the FBI released a document saying how you can identify a potential terrorist. Some of them like, at the coffee shop, does the person use cash? Or is he an evangelical Christian? They were getting to the point where they were trying to make the argument that evangelical Christians, especially gun owners, were a domestic terrorist threat. And of course, that was the whole thing when they were trying to say guns are for hunting. And everybody, oh, you know, nobody should have guns, you know, that can actually do them for their actual purpose. I mean, we had Larry Prada, the other executive director emeritus of Gun Owners America, and he was explaining, no, guns, the right to bear arms is not for hunting.
Right.
It is at its very core, just like in the Battle of Athens, Tennessee, to fight off a tyrannical government. That's what our founding fathers did. They fought off the Brits. They were British people living here. They were colonists. This was a colony of Britain. And they said, no more, no more, no more.
Right.
You know, and how far we've strayed from our founding fathers, how far we've strayed from the biblical root. My goodness, folks, it is time for us to get back. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us with more with Helmet after this. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Joby Gorgas with Magnum Research. I'm here to tell you a little bit about our new L5 and 44 mag. This is our 5-inch model, lightweight model. It's got an aluminum grip frame, shaving down the weight so that we can get it under 50 ounces so that it's New York legal. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to properly hold the L5 for function. When shooting a Desert Eagle, you want to make sure that your dominant arm is locked out, pushing back into the back of the grip. Your secondary hand is holding around the front of the grip to keep the muzzle flip down. This gives you a good firm hold for proper cycling. We got to remember that the Desert Eagle is a gas-operated rotating bolt semi-automatic pistol, not unlike an AR system. I also want to talk to you about the stance for shooting the Desert Eagle. When shooting the Desert Eagle, you need a good firm base, so you want to step into your direction, get that arm locked, that support hand on, and lean forward into it so that you can handle that recoil.
Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
And we are back. Welcome back this Friday, November 17th, on this chilly and a little bit overcast morning. We are back with helmet, talking about all manner of things. But look at this. He mentioned, of course, Helmet, you mentioned Horace Mann. Let's get a little history on this. The American public education system was directly imported from Prussia, modern-day Germany. This model of, quote, free and compulsory, end quote, education was designed by the Prussian emperor in order to generate obedient workers and soldiers who would not question his authority. In the 1830s, American lawmaker Horace Mann visited Prussia and researched its education methodology. He was infatuated with the emperor's method of eliminating free thought from his subjects and eliminating free thought from his subjects and designed an educational system for Massachusetts directly based on these concepts. The movement then quickly spread nationally. Here are some of the video clips of that, of the origins of the American public educational system and training young kids to become obedient to state education. I've never let schooling interfere with my education, Mark Twain said. But of course, let's look at this brief clip on
Now we come to the great man
Horace
himself.
Mann.
A man history records as being instrumental in the creation of America's public education system. Horace Mann was an American educator who served as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives.
Centralist. He's a control freak. He's a brainwasher.
He was a reformer of the education system at the time. In 1837,
1837!
he became the head of the newly created Board of Education in Massachusetts, where he began the work that would eventually earn him the title as the father of American public education.
This is the father of American public education, and he got it from
Mann finally hears about a
Prussia.
particularly successful style that had been developed in Prussia, which is now modern-day Germany. The Prussian system had shown to be such a success for the government's purposes that, accompanied by a few other educators, Horace Mann travels to Germany to investigate. Upon their return to the United States, they lobbied heavily to have the Prussian model adopted.
All in favor, say aye.
Interest in Prussia had also been growing in the northern half of the continent. Around this time, the Canadian Superintendent of Schools, Egerton Ryerson, traveled to Prussia in search of a new model of education. His journeys also included visiting Horace Mann in Massachusetts to further examine the system he would eventually adopt. George Brown, the editor of Toronto's Globe newspaper, was even quoted saying that Ryerson had successfully imported Prussian education into Ontario.
They admit it!
During the
They
next 30 years or
even
so,
openly
a whole line of
admit
American
what they're
dignitaries
doing.
came to Germany to earn degrees.
Okay, that's enough of that. But you can see how that's unbelievable. It's a brainwashing indoctrination system that eliminates critical thought and free thinking, because it's through that process that through our conscience we can eventually, at the end, search for God. Right? And that's the Kierkegaard talking about it as rationale leading up to the mountain, but in the end we have to take the leap of faith. But rationale and critical thinking and trying to question our existence, existential thoughts, existential thinking, lead us towards God in the end if we are able to have truth, access to truth. But of course, if you're not able to do even any type of free thought or critical thinking, and then it's indoctrinated into through the public education system, which they're telling you is free, but it's really indoctrination, it's brainwashing camp. No wonder, of course, and they take all the elements of biblical morality, all the elements of God, all the elements of God's grace and Christ's sacrifice and the blood he spilled for you. I mean, this undeserved grace, right? This incredible gift of love that we of human beings are receiving. And that's why we should, of course, love God and love our neighbor. But all this morality, all this central key morality is eliminated, and then you replace it with secular humanism and postmodern humanism, which then even has repercussions to the palliative care. We were talking with Ron Panzer, a 30-year in the nursing industry and organizes against euthanasia. And he was telling us the whole even medical model shifted because it used to be based on the Judeo-Christian model of trying to preserve life until God decided when it would expire, because there could be miracles during that time, there could be healing, there could be forgiveness, there could be repentance, whatever. And just ending, having this sort of materialistic, artificial, synthetic, robotic view of human life and just control and preservation of resources is not the way. We have to, that's even happening in palliative care, where they're saying just kill the person, just kill the person. It's not, it's no longer, necessary. You know what I mean? And this has fundamental repercussions as we move from Judeo-Christianity to this postmodern culture, repercussions throughout our entire civilization. Of course, education is a place you've been involved in. Tell us how important that was for your thinking in terms of educating your young people, but also just generally speaking about public school and how it's become so deleterious to the youth because it left its Judeo-Christian values. What are your thoughts on that, Helmut?
Well, you actually have in Pennsylvania, for example, right now, you've got 4 cases brought before the courts that the way the secular and the public school system is interpreting the courts are the separation of church and state. That's not what the founding fathers meant it to be. So, but the way they're interpreting it, and public schools in several cases have been, secular humanism has been considered a religion.
Yeah.
They've ruled that. So therefore, the public schools are in violation the way they're interpreting it. So
wow, so they've ruled that secular humanism is a religion.
Right. So
we
have the congressman, a couple of Christian congressmen here in the state have brought suit against it. It can't go to trial because they'd have to throw out the public schools, and that's not going to happen. But the whole aspect of tolerance and yes, you're supposed to tolerate everything except only if you agree with me. Just going back to some of the historical things, Adams, for example, he said to be what do you say? To be ignorant of the Bible is shameful, because granted we're not perfect and our systems aren't perfect, but we have an absolute standard. So when you get away from that, like when I was in seminary, a lot of people were writing exegetical studies. I wanted to do something that was very practical because I was also involved with sports and.
You were a great athlete, I heard. Football player and everything.
No, soccer.
You did soccer?
Soccer and wrestling.
Didn't you? Oh, you did wrestle. You did wrestle. I thought you played football.
I played real football.
Oh, you played real soccer. You played soccer football. In America, we call that soccer.
Right. It's football everywhere else in the world. Okay. No, but so I wrote mine on biblical integration in athletics. It was a 12-page working manual. Implemented that on a secular level at the community. We had started a league years back, and I also coached one of the teams.
Nice, nice.
In God's blessing, we went 12 years undefeated.
Wow, what is your secret? You're teaching them biblical morality.
Right. We were the approach was entirely different. I was speaking at a sports banquet up in the Scranton area, and a couple of coaches came out and said, "Can you teach us what you do?" And I said, "I'd love to teach you, but you're not willing to do what I do."
Well, they made it illegal.
No, well, yeah, actually, it was funny.
Mention the Bible; it's illegal.
It was interesting. The president of the league came up to me one day, and I always had 2 assistant coaches, and he said, "Oh, we got a problem." I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "Well, one parent complained you used the word God in practice."
Oh my
And
goodness.
I said, my statement to the student, you have no idea what your potential is. God has created you with all kinds of abilities. But in this case, my 2 assistant coaches got on his case that
oh my God.
We had other coaches showing up that were drunk, that were using lewd illustrations, foul language.
Oh.
And you come to me because I use the word God? That takes a lot of nerve. Now, he backed off. And I said, you got to get some backbone and stand up to some of these people. But so for 12 years, going undefeated. But I said, you don't know your kids. I knew what they were doing in school. I knew the parents. We got to meet and to have an impact on their lives. Somebody said, oh, you were very successful. I said, no. You're looking at sports and a record. That's not success to me. My success is how many of these kids I'm taking into eternity.
Yes.
And instilling a fruit of the Spirit, a Christ-like character trait in their lives. And having the parents began to realize the impact. And somebody said, well, you're really tough on these kids. I said, you're right. I said, and somebody has commented, my wife said to me, oh, well, you're really mean. She came to a practice. And I said, you're right. I said, why am I the only coach that has a waiting list of kids trying to get on the team?
Exactly.
Kids appreciate
it's transformative.
Excuse me?
Transformative.
Right, and demanding. We don't expect enough of our children.
Exactly.
And,
well, hardship is abuse apparently nowadays.
Oh,
making your children, go through hardship and experience, getting mentally tough is apparently abuse.
Well, we did the wilderness stress camping, one of the ministries I was involved in. We would take kids out of the jail system. We would take whatever the courts would give us. We would take 12 of them. We would take a JD officer with us. We had him for 2 weeks. At the end of the 2 weeks, our system produced 10 or 11 the courts would never see again out of the 12.
Wow.
After doing this a couple times, this we were doing down in Virginia, out in the Outer Banks. We were all over the country doing different things. And the judge said, we're not doing this anymore. I said, well, it was free. Your JD officers love it. I had local businessmen fund it. And he said, well, you're putting people out of work.
You know what gets to me? How is it that you can't mention, and you can't even say God, like you said, you know, God created you for this, and you can't even say something like that. Yet you can literally preach to children about hypersexualizing them, transgenderism, how that's normal.
Right.
You kids should dress and cross-dress. You should be drag queens. You can say, join the homosexual club afterwards if you're interested in different sexual activity. You can say this to children. You get 5 years old in kindergarten in Chicago using the UN Public Health and Science Sexual Education Program. 5-year-old children, they're teaching how to masturbate and oral sex and anal sex. I mean, what are these people? They're totally possessed by Satan. It's not only they're on drugs, they're totally possessed by Satan. How is it that you can't even say, God created an image, he has a purpose for your life. You can't say something like that, but you can say, go join the homosexual club. That's incredible.
Well, it's been so watered down all over. I have a copy of Daniel Webster's dictionary, the original one. And if you've ever seen it, it's about that thick. And on every word, every page, he uses illustrations to demonstrate that particular word, how it's used. Invariably, the illustrations will have a quote from Scripture.
Wow, isn't that amazing?
And then a lot of the founding fathers were in teaching that. Even, let's say, Dwight Eisenhower, he was the only president that ever prayed at his own inauguration.
Wow, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and then going back to 1953, he was also, 54, he put it, under God into the pledge. Then he also put, in God we trust, in 1956 on the money.
Yeah, yes.
Then we have the National Prayer Breakfast and so forth. It's mostly from broadcasters and so forth, the Christian broadcasters. But the constant, even in Washington, D.C., I know a friend of mine is a staff historian for the Park Service, and he was saying that in D.C. alone, they've removed over half of the engravings and monuments to our founding fathers. But they're not teaching that in the schools. These kids have no idea. Most of the kids you ask, they have no idea why we celebrate Thanksgiving. And that's coming up.
You can't have the 10 Commandments in a public space.
But the Supreme Court will have it up behind them.
You can't have a nativity scene in your public space, but you can put a Baphomet 12-foot statue of a Satan god in the public space. What the heck? What is going on here? This is absolute loony bin lunacy. What is it? The people in the white straitjackets are running the loony bin. Right. It's absolutely insane. Now, can you tell us a little more about how you would train, of course, your young people when you took them into the wilderness with the jail program?
We stripped life down. We controlled their diet. We always had experts. Like we might do whitewater rafting. We might do rappelling, spelunking.
Wow. So different adventurous things.
As far as they knew, they were 1,000 miles from civilization. But what they didn't know is we could, if something actually did happen, safety was a key factor, obviously, primary. Right. But we could pull them out within a matter of minutes if we had to.
What was the age group of these students? The
age group was like a high school age.
Oh, interesting. Nice.
You know, but whatever the courts would give us, and I know in my discussion with him when he mentioned to me, the judge goes, "Oh, we're not going to do this anymore because you're putting people out of work." I couldn't believe that he actually said it.
That's unbelievable.
Right, but when we spoke, he goes,
"Golly,
that wasn't the issue." I said, "Look, forget about that. Your JD officers love it. This system is working. They were getting they were considered successful if they got 10 to 15% success. We were doing the exact opposite. We were getting 85 to 90% success. I said, your system, be a pragmatist. Your system isn't working. Ours is. And what's happened was they negated all that. He said what he didn't like was the spiritual factors.
Well, you have to be shut down because you're too successful, and you're not going to help those. You're going to help those kids not go back to prison.
Right.
And the prisons are run by private companies. Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
And you've seen
crazy.
You've seen in the news and in the media how a lot of the business, the judges are putting them in because of the kickbacks and money. The more people they put into the jail system, rather than really trying to help them.
Do you know that 90% of the prisoners in jail are young people with non-violent offenses? Non-violent offenses.
I didn't know that.
That's crazy. I mean, that we have the biggest prison population in the world, bigger than China.
Per capita.
Bigger than China per capita. Than China.
What's a bigger business?
It's told, and it's owned by private companies. It's a business.
Well, the education, going back to the educational system, it's about the money. It's not about the education. About every 10 years they'll change because we have to bring a new curriculum, and they tell the parents this is for the children. It's never about the children. It's always either about the administrative, or they're top heavy, the ridiculous salaries that the administrative people are getting. But it's not about the kids. It's about the money. And then you really find out where people's hearts are when they start talking about money. But, you know, with the lack of standards, well, we've killed over 60 million people just through the abortions and so forth.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
We wiped out a whole generation. So, you know, just taking a stand on having, there's an attack on families. There's an attack on just the absolute standards. Somebody says, well, we have to be tolerant of everything. Somebody said to me one day, he said, oh, well, you're intolerant. I said, absolutely, I'm intolerant. I'm intolerant of lying and of deception and so many other things. And you tolerate everything.
Well, you know what happened? Even we have a sister who was a public school teacher, and she just mentioned something along the lines like Christianity and Islam are not the same. She said something like that, which is a true statement. And then a Muslim student, reported her to the school board, whatever it is.
Right.
She was fired. She was fired for saying that Christianity and Islam are not the same. She was, and this is in Pennsylvania.
Right.
This is incredible.
A friend of mine who teaches in one of the better, quote unquote, better school districts in the area, it's a job, but they're pulling their own children also. It's so horrible. They're pulling out whatever it takes to educate my child, whether it's homeschooling, whether it's private school and so forth. And
how amazing!
Parents have no idea what's going on.
They have no clue. I mean, now I think people are starting to wake up to it a little more with alternative news, etc. But still, even in this area, I know that the public school system has so much clout because, it has a very high rating in the public school system, nationally, and they have, this or that graduation rate, whatever. But it's like with Common Core and what the federal government was trying to push on the people, they were trying to put multicultural classes in there, okay? And they were trying to put, quote, non-tolerant education in there, I mean, to get rid of to teach, indoctrinate, quote, tolerance, okay? And teach, brainwash multicultural relativism. Brigitte Gabriel exposed this. They were teaching in multicultural religions class, okay, which they were saying that has to be mandated to understand a complex society and a complex world for our new leaders, right? This is how they sell it. They're teaching in the class on religions. They're teaching the children have to go to a Muslim mosque. They have to quote the Shahada, which is the Declaration of Faith. They have to then pretend in one of the exercises that they're a Muslim jihadi who's being victimized by Christian crusaders. When it was the Muslims who were invading Europe and the Christians were defending Europe, it was not an offensive war. They're teaching literally, it's the hijacking of history, the hijacking of reality, imposing this false reality and this false narrative into young people, making them feel that they're against this Christian hegemony, which they have to fight and ally with all these, quote, victimized cultures to fight and destroy and eradicate, because that's the bad, intolerant culture. I mean, this is they're using taxpayer money to train our kids like this. It's incredible. Did you see the statistics? 53% of now young people, millennials, would rather live in a socialist and communist country, even though they've never been to one.
Right. I've lectured in South America and in Europe at the university level on education, on theology, and so forth. But it was always fascinating. I'm an immigrant. I was born in Germany, and we became.
Oh, you were born in Germany.
Right, we were assimilated here. You wanted to be part of this, be an American.
Yeah.
And for example, at the time when in East Germany at the time, in speaking, and it was interesting in the class at the University of Magdeburg. In the back of the class is a party member sitting there. The professor was in the front of the class, and they did a little review for the class. It wasn't a review, it was to prep them for me speaking next. And they talked about socialism, how wonderful it is. Everybody votes over there, but if you don't vote, the police come to your house, you know. And but it was interesting, even because the Russian troops were all over the place. Even under the Tsars, as bad as it was in some respects, the Russian people never starved. Under Stalin, who killed over 100 million people, 80 million or 100 million, I can't remember the exact number, but it was much for it. It makes Hitler look like a amateur at what he did. But life is wonderful here. Life is perfect. And but they, aside from discussing a couple of minutes of the political issues, the young people didn't care. They wanted to know what we wear. They all thought we were either cowboys or gangsters, first of all, and they didn't know. But I always find it interesting here in the States when people complain about this country and the problems. I said, "You're right. We have problems." And for me to admit that, to a socialist, was like, "You're not supposed to admit that." Yeah, we have things that we need to improve on. But we're willing to be open about it. Of course, your life is perfect. Yeah, you go to Cuba, go to Venezuela, go to
North Korea, right?
Yeah, and North Korea, right? I said, and then when they complain here, I said, "Have you ever lived anywhere else?" No. I said, "Don't go for a visit. Go live there for 6 months, a year.
Exactly.
Tell me how wonderful it is." They won't do that. Now, all the people, even in this election, they're all, well, if Trump gets elected, we're all going to rush to Canada. Well, I'm going to get myself in trouble here. But Canada is a socialistic country also, and
with all the billions, yeah,
and they're allowing all the people pouring in because they have a massive country they need workers. But you saw what happened in France and Germany. It's making a disaster.
It's imploding,
and a lot of the countries have just shut down.
Oh, we had Dr. Bill Warner on, who was an expert on political Islam,
right?
And this is one of the modalities of jihad. Is displacement, by changing the population demographics and basically going in, repopulating, taking the women, and multiplying your way into the majority. This is one of the modalities of jihad.
We had a conference last year where I had one of the fellows who was one of the leaders in Lebanon, and in Syria, and now he's a pastor actually in Canada. But his whole background, he was one of the leaders with, it wasn't ISIS, but with the very militant groups. And his life is in jeopardy because of all that. But yet he, showing exactly what you're saying about how changing the whole population and so forth.
Oh.
And they're controlling these things. A lot of this, and as you probably know, they've tried to impose Sharia law
in the UK.
Here also.
Here, yes,
they tried it here.
Well, they have like a soft version of it because you have political correctness where you can't insult Islam. And even though there's a mass terror attack, they always say if there's a mass terror attack and it is a jihadi, then they say, it helps Islam, because then they can say, don't be intolerant. It's not about Islam. They can do that, right? So it's the apologists win there. And even if it's not jihadi related, like when the vehement atheist shot up the Texas church just 2 weeks ago. And of course he was a Bible study, so that means he's Christian. Even though he was a vehement atheist, still they want to say he's a Bible study teacher. this guy who comes in and kills people. Then the jihadis win again, the Muslim apologists win again, because they can say, oh, look, you are now, you don't attack Christians when they kill. You don't attack white people when they kill. You only attack Muslims. See, both ways, either which way, any mass terror attack now, and David Wood made a video on this, nice video on this, any mass terror attack actually helps Islam now. It helps silence everybody about criticizing anything about Islam and its jihadi nature. And of course, this is in the public schools. This is in our educational system now, which is now indoctrination camp. Why don't we go to tax credits where parents can choose between whether or not they want to send their children with the tax credits to public school or private school or religious school or vocational school or homeschooling? Why don't we give parents the opportunity to choose?
Well, there again, the school system and our government really wants to destroy the family.
Yeah.
That dependency on government, or we know better than you do, really. Every time they've touched something, the government, they've made a mess out of it.
Every single time.
And it continues. And I'm not so sure I want to relinquish that right of the rearing of my children to the government. It's just a constant contradiction. We're getting back to the biblical standards. Well, we can't have standards. It's just frustrating. But at the same time, I said, you need to stay active. What happens a lot of times, we tend to blend into our culture.
Yes.
Because we're intimidated by the pressure or the financial. I know I've had situations in the past where I was working for another national company, and the owner asked me to do something that was dishonest and lie about it, and I couldn't do that. So you walk away from the job.
Right.
People say, how could you do that? I mean, you take a 50% cut in pay. I said, if you're willing to relinquish your own character, your own integrity, I said, you've got nothing left.
Exactly.
And what kind of role model? Now, what's encouraging is to see, I have 3 sons. They're all married. And they're all leaders in the community. They're all involved in ministries. Their lives are committed to helping and serving other people. And mostly because of their relationship with Christ. It's like in Ephesians 8, for by grace are you saved, through faith, not of works, lest any man should boast. Their whole commitment is, it's not about this. We're just passing through. We're moving into eternity. That's where it really counts. And but the whole family structure is constantly under attack.
Under threat. I mean, there's an order. There's a spiritual order God gives, right? Scripture has a spiritual order. God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, woman over children. There is a spiritual order in the family, and it's basically a tactical unit to destroy Satan's kingdom. But what happens is Satan, of course, then uses powers and different structures to go after that, destroy families, destroy fathers, get fathers out of the home. In order to get welfare payments, you have to divorce your man. You have to get rid of the man in the house. You can't have a husband in the house. And so, of course, divorce rate skyrockets when it's being incentivized and being rewarded. It's unbelievable.
Well, it's like the cohabitation epidemic that we're dealing with now. And
cohabitation, right.
Yeah, it's destroying not only families, but they think that that's better. But the stats on that are the exact opposite. The infidelity is 4 or 5 times higher with people who are cohabitating. The guy, the girl's cheating on each other. Marriage has been downplayed, and yes, there are problems. You work through it. I mean, I love my wife. My biggest influence on my sons is how I love their mother.
Yes.
But the opposite is also the case. People say, well, I also do premarital counseling.
But you're the head of the house. You're the head of the house.
The buck stops here, right?
And you love your family as Christ loved the church. Right. You're the head. And that kind of biblical father is so critical. That's the enemy of Satan. Because he is the Christ in the family. The representative of Christ in the family.
One of the things I have in my office, I have a sign that says, we are what we continually do. Therefore, excellence is not an act but a habit. And I said, not perfect. You know, I make mistakes and so forth, but, and you admit those mistakes to your own children and apologize.
Very important.
And I think it's helped them to realize I don't have to be perfect.
Yes.
But I do have to strive for excellence. I do have to strive to become more Christ-like in my character.
Yes.
And those kind of things it was interesting. As they were growing up, we communicated. But when they turned 21, 22, then we became friends. But a lot of the parents, I always tell them, I said, the friend comes later. Right now, be a parent. And
that's right.
The kids
I'll call you to be a dad.
Yeah, the kids are raising the parents. And
exactly.
Well, when I shut down, I had another business, and when I shut it down about 2 years ago, there's a school superintendent that I had known. I had coached there 1 year at the high school. It was the only year they went to the districts for the soccer team. So she said, we need help. Could you sub? I said, I can't do that. She said, why not? I'd have to kill one of them. I said, you've lost control of the classroom. The inmates are running the asylum.
There we go.
The interesting part is she acknowledged it and she says, you know, you're right.
Well, this is what happened with our out of control, federal bureaucracy as well, the deep state. Wow, the inmates are really running the asylum. And Trump is trying to do whatever he can to try to get America back on track. Well, folks, that's it. That we are out of time on this broadcast. Helmet, we have so many incredible things that we covered. Any last words, any websites that people can go visit to help your organizations or to just check out what you're doing?
What I'm doing, I'm working with another company that's doing marketing. To me, it's a vehicle to help other businesses and other ministries, and so we work with a lot of churches, Christian camps, and so forth. But we also work we do the whole state of Texas, California.
Wow.
For different companies. We do about 400 trucking companies, a lot of universities all over the country. But to me, it's just a vehicle. We have a vehicle here to help people.
Yes.
And
that's what
we're here to serve. We're here to serve.
Love your neighbor. Love God, love your neighbor. Thank you so much, Helmut, for being with us this morning. Thank you all for joining us on today's broadcast. We'll see you tomorrow, 5 a.m. sharp. Remember, the Bible says, let no man take thy crown. I'm sorry, tomorrow, Tuesday, right. So we will see you on Monday back at the Gaines Report. Monday, 5 a.m. sharp. God bless, Godspeed, and may His kingdom come. All right.